Hey, hey. Hey, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I wanted to get a live out because a very interesting story is going on right now. And it's right up my alley. So I wanted to talk about it. Now, you guys remember a couple of weeks ago when the Colonial pipeline there was a cyber attack. Well, we're finding out today that the Justice Department was able to recover 2.3 million of the 4.4 million dollar ransom that the Colonial Pipeline paid to the hackers. It's crazy. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about ransomware and how it works. It's almost like a crime that you literally don't have to, you don't have to even put a face on it. Everything can be done remotely. Thus, you're never in the vicinity of your victim. That sort of a thing. But let's prime this.
Colonial Pipeline's quick notification to law enforcement and pursuant to a seizure warrant issued by the United States District Court for the Northern District of California earlier today, the Department of Justice has found and recaptured the majority of the ransom Colonial paid to the Dark Side Network in the wake of last month's ransomware attack.
Dark Side
Ransomware
Network?
attacks are always unacceptable. But when they target critical infrastructure, we will spare no effort in our response. DarkSide is a ransomware as a service network. That means
we know what it
developers
means.
who sell or lease ransomware to use in attacks in return for a fee or a share in the proceeds. DarkSide and its affiliates have been digitally stalking U.S. companies for the better part of last year.
What's up, Truth Seeker?
Indiscriminately attacking victims
Hey, Patricia.
that include key players in our nation's critical infrastructure. Today, we turned the tables on DarkSide. So today, I want to emphasize to leaders of corporations and communities alike, the threat of severe ransomware attacks pose a clear and present danger to your organization, to your company, to your customers, to your shareholders, and to your long-term success. So pay attention now. Invest resources now. Failure to do so could be the difference between being secure now or a victim later.
Okay. What is a ransomware attack? What is a ransomware attack? Well, we'll get to that here in a second. It is probably the more newer cyber attack methods that are used, and it's extremely effective. And I'll tell you why here in a minute. Now, the Colonial Pipeline Company was hacked. Ransomware was deployed in their environment, which basically locked their files up. And there was a recent security breach that was noted in some software that was really huge back in March. Additional information, I think, came out in April. But there's different ways that people can leverage these ransomware attacks. From passing messages, email messages, to accessing the actual server itself, or even physically being able to touch the server. Most servers are virtualized these days, so a lot of times these things are all happening remotely. And when you look at a computer, just know that your computer has 65,000 doors on it. And there's, one of 65,000, a little over 65,000 ways that I can get in. There's over 65,000 doors that I can get in. Now, most people, they close most of these doors. We would refer to them as ports. But some ports you can't close. Let's just take port 25, for example. Let's take SMTP. Well, in order to pass SMTP, I don't care what mail system you use, you're going to need port 25 to be open. Now, if you get back behind a network somewhere, then you could probably do like, port 587 or more secure SMTP or whatnot. But MTA to MTA, just out there on the World Wide Web, you're going to need port 25 open. So people got very crazy with these ransomware attacks. They were passing these these emails which would have links, and then people would click the links, and the links would then turn around and push a software down, onto their machine, especially if they're using their machine or surfing the machine on the web under administrative credentials. So if you're an admin on your computer, then basically when you open up that browser, and it used to be that, well, still now, your browser is going to run with the same level of permissions that you currently logged in with. But yeah, like that's generally, and then another way that ransomware attacks are happening. You guys remember Kaspersky, the antivirus Kaspersky? It was a big deal back like in the early 2000s, and even going all the way up till just a couple years ago. The US government had installed Kaspersky, a Russian-made antivirus on government machines. And they call home. But they're not just calling home to get updates on the latest, newest updates to upgrade your computer with the latest algorithms. No, they're calling home. Yeah, they're pretending to do that, but they're also taking information back with them. So these antivirus softwares had the ability of essentially reporting back to the makers every single file installed on that machine. Doesn't even have to be installed, just be sitting on the machine. These ransomware attacks, what they're basically doing is they're getting access to the machines, and then they're locking your files. They're essentially encrypting them and then putting a password on your files. And in order to access these files back, especially if they're core needed files, they have to give you the password. And in exchange for that password, you have to pay them. So they've been doing these crimes using cryptocurrency, and I'm really interested to learn about how they managed to even recover this crypto. So because that has been one of the things for so long, that they're doing this over cryptocurrency, and there's not a damn thing anybody can do about it. Now, on Monday, an affidavit was filed that said the FBI was in possession of a private key that unlocked a Bitcoin wallet that had received most of the funds. It was unclear how the FBI gained access to the key. So what that tells me is it was this cryptocurrency was not on a hard wallet, or the wallet would have been offline. They wouldn't have been able to get to the crypto. They literally would have had to have accessed this wallet and transferred the crypto out. They would have had to get it onto, they would have had to transfer it out. So it's amazing to me that they got the private key for somebody's Bitcoin wallet. Now, there are online wallets, but they are not as secure as your hard wallet, which is off the internet, no access. Now, Colonial Pipeline said that it paid the hackers nearly $5 million to regain access. Bitcoin's down nearly 5% as of this evening, as of about 12 minutes ago. The cryptocurrency's value has dropped to 34K in recent weeks after hitting an all-time high of 63,000 in April. It's damn near dropped 50%. Now that Reuters says Bitcoin seizures are rare, but authorities have stepped up their expertise in tracking the flow of digital money as ransomware has become a growing national security threat and put a further strain on relations between the United States And who's that say? Russia. Russia is a very dangerous, they've got some real dangerous players in Russia as far as hackers are concerned. Ethereum was created by a fellow Russian, Vitalik Buterin. He created the cryptocurrency Ethereum. Um, Basically, what this comes down to, well, let's just go a little further. The hack was attributed to a gang called DarkSide, and it caused a days-long shutdown that led to a spike in gas prices, panic buying, and localized fuel shortages. You guys remember how you were running out of fuel in Georgia, right? You know, A doesn't only stand for Apple, it stands for Atlanta too. I'll let that sublime just stand. Um, the White House is urging executives and business leaders to step up their security measures to protect against ransomware attacks after the Colonial hack and later intrusions that disrupted operations at a major meatpacking company. And we heard about that as well. Um, these particular type of crimes have been really easy for hackers to do because essentially, like I said before, everything's done remote. So they could be in a whole another country and can successfully lay a file down onto your drive, onto your file system. That file gets executed, and boom, before you know it, you can't access any of your files. And it says, what's the password? And then sometimes it's really messed up because some people have gotten the passwords after paying the ransom. And after putting the password in, it didn't unencrypt all the files. So then some files were left unopened or unable to be opened. So it is something that's been going on for several years, actually. It's been going on for several years. And this is the first time I've ever seen the Department of Justice stand behind to stand up there and talk almost technically. I don't know if they had anyone like a technical resource that may have been working with them. I would think so, right? Um, but yeah, Russia has some dangerous players. I'm telling you. And it's almost like it's okay if you live in Russia. It's almost like the government is okay with people that hack. Like the whole election meddling and all. I mean, if you really pay attention to social media and you just, every day you're paying attention to it. I know like you guys even seen the increase in Trump related everything. Remember when the MAGA trolls used to come and spam the crap out of my lives when I would be live, during while Trump was in office? It was almost when he said, "Russia, are you listening?" Yeah, they're listening. They were listening. Yeah, they were, and they were doing all sorts of cyber attacks on various pieces of infrastructure. I'm telling you. Um, And it looks like, I guess, Biden's going to bring it up with Russia President Vladimir Putin. We'll see how that goes. Now, Tom Robinson, co-founder of crypto tracking firm Elliptic. Now, keep in mind, to track crypto, it's not really that difficult to do that. All cryptocurrency transactions are written on the blockchain. It's like a big spreadsheet almost. So all these transactions get written to this blockchain. There's never a secret about what wallet has the crypto. That's not the problem. You're always going to be able to see, either you're going to be able to see the last exchange and the location or the address of where the crypto was sent. But there's also this technique that some hackers use. They call it tumbling, where they'll take in a form of payment like Bitcoin for their ransomware activities, and they'll turn around and pay it out like via Monero or something like that, which is more private crypto, but they'll literally, it's almost like throwing it in a washing machine and then taking out one of the shirts. You know what I'm saying? It's like, expecting all of the clothes and all of the crypto and money to get just tumbled around. And then, of course, spit it back out in different increments, that type of thing. That's how they typically do it. Now, the Bitcoin wallet from which the funds were taken contained 69.6 Bitcoins. So let's just add that up really quick. 69.6 times 34. That's a little over $2 million. So this wallet had a little over 2 million, but you notice that they recovered 2 million because the hackers weren't stupid. They sent half of the crypto to one wallet and the other half to another wallet. It's nothing to have multiple wallets. So it looks like they got a good share of it back, but not all of it, which it kind of goes to show like the length that hackers will go to. So the seizure was 63.7 Bitcoins. So what that tells me is that the wallet had probably contained 6 Bitcoins or so, a little over 5 or 6 Bitcoins previous to the large transaction that took place, which all we got to do is just go, we can literally go track these wallets and look at these transactions. Like I said, it's never a secret on what wallet the funds went to. That's another problem. Now, that's one of the problem that is one of the cons for the hackers, is the fact that Bitcoin was built on a fair trust system. So when they try to do bad things using this said system, right, that's one of the things that really sucks for them, is that, yeah, people are always going to be able to look at the blockchain and see where the funds went. So that's why they started trying to invent all these tumbling methods, and I'd have to look up and see if there's any like new methods out there. But apparently, DarkSide would normally keep a smaller share for its role in providing the encryption software and negotiating with the victim. On Monday, minutes after the first funds were transferred out, the rest followed. The U.S. government might have seized that second amount as well, but not announced it yet. I almost want to go look on the blockchain to see what the status of the wallet is. Okay, so the FBI affidavit filed on Monday said that the Bureau had tracked the Bitcoin through multiple wallets using the public blockchain and tools. Like I said, any of us can go look at that. Small amounts were shaved off the initial 75 Bitcoin payment along the way. A lot of times, if you're sending money through exchanges, they will trim off a piece of the coin as a fee. The remaining amount reached the final wallet on May 27th and stayed there until Monday. Very interesting. Very interesting. I want to know a little bit more technical details about the Bitcoin aspect of it. Where could I go? I could probably use ZDNet or CoinDesk. Hold on, let's go to CoinDesk. CoinDesk is pretty official when it comes to Bitcoin news. So, oh my, look at that. Bitcoin, 34,000, Ethereum, 2,600, XRP, 87 cents, Cardano, $1.60, Doge, 34 cents. Hold on just a second.
Want to invest in Bitcoin?
Colonial Pipeline paid, yes, 4.4 million to Bitcoin to the attackers, linked to the we're going to look up DarkSide too. But give it just a second. 10. All right.
I never, ever get tired of them. But this one is about the fallout of Colonial pipelines, one of the major pipelines carrying oil up the East Coast, and the sort of ransomware attack that they experienced a while ago. So after this happened, the Transportation Security Administration, a DHS unit, will issue a security directive this week requiring pipeline companies to report cyber incidents to federal authorities. Now, this is interesting
Hey,
because this
everybody
has
in the
only been
chat.
voluntary before, and it shows a larger consideration around sort of the critical infrastructure and how vulnerable it might be to cybersecurity attacks. So, Adam, I'd be curious to get your thoughts here. Is this sort of like regulatory approach? You need to report these cybersecurity incidents to us a net good or maybe a detriment in terms of defending against
Richard
this
Hart, we
as
would sure
critical
love to hear you talk
infrastructure in the
about
future?
this a little bit.
I mean, I think
How they
anything
track
that gets
this and
companies to
stuff.
take their
'Cause
security
he's
more
smart. He can
seriously,
do
to
it.
plan for failure states, right? We actually just recorded episode 2 of Hard Problems with Bram Cohen, talking with an American hacker about the Colonial pipeline and about the problem specifically of ransomware. That's going to be out on CoinDesk podcast this Sunday. And basically, whether you're talking about, like the power going out, or your data center getting hit by a meteorite, or you getting locked up because of ransomware, really the fact that you're vulnerable to that in the first place is because you have failed to plan for what happens when things go very poorly when it comes
not
to your
all
data
the time,
security.
sir. Not
So
all
a
the
lot of these
time. Be
things are things
careful
that actually
there.
are preventable. There just need to be incentives in place for that. I actually think this is probably a good place for governments to step in and say, hey, if this
Governments do need
happens
to
to you and
step
you're
up
part
for
of the
sure.
critical infrastructure,
I
then
like to
you
use a
need to disclose that.
sandbox,
I think that that's totally
personally.
reasonable. And, again, like I think it's a decent use of time.
No, absolutely. And this would include like dams, healthcare, potentially wastewater systems. Like these are the sort of infrastructures we're talking about. They're largely controlled by, technology today. It's not quite the manual process it once was. All of these things are connected to internet connected systems. And Naomi, I'm curious to hear your thoughts in this regard, particularly given kind of your views around where government should step in, where it should not.
I don't see how it's going to help to report this to a lot of these offices. Generally, they tend to be very backwards technologically, and they tend to make bad decisions based on very limited knowledge. Their area of expertise is generally not in the area that they're actually regulating. So it seems bad to put power in their hands as to determine best practices for industries that they really don't understand and that they're not specialized in.
On that.
So I can see it more being like a bureaucratic nightmare than an actual help. That being said, I will echo what Adam said, that I definitely think that companies need to be taking cybersecurity measures a lot more seriously, as we're well into the age of Internet of Things, and everyone has all these smart devices around their homes. None of these devices have good firewalls. None of them are going to be preventing hackers from accessing your home internet. Once they get through one weak port, then they can access anything on your network. A lot of people don't realize that. And so they have these gaping vulnerabilities in their networks. And obviously industries are no different. You could have a hospital and they might just have a smart thermometer. And that's the way that someone gains access to their entire system, because it's hooked up to the same internet. I think a lot of people maybe need education in that area of how to make things more robust. I don't see how the government getting involved with this is actually going to help, but I do hope that they do start to take this seriously, because this is an incredibly serious issue.
I do think this is like no, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
I was just going to respond to Naomi. You brought up the regulators being backwards, but I think that you'd be surprised at how backwards a lot of these companies and industries are operating when it comes to their cybersecurity.
So it's the blind leading the blind? That sounds terrible.
Blind leading the blind. I recently read a bunch of case studies. I am in law school in my spare time, and it's shocking.
They somehow got the private key to one of these wallets.
It's shocking.
How could they have done
how
that?
vulnerable a lot of companies are when it comes to their cybersecurity.
How could they have did that?
You would think that they would take it more seriously, but it just turns out that a lot
they would have had to
companies
hack
just
themselves.
Aren't following the recommendations, and so I think if I guess regulation is put in place that they have to follow, and maybe that regulation is put in place with a partner that really understands how these companies can protect themselves. There's a lot of value that can be added. So
I think this is like a really interesting, like,
let's look up dark side.
A lot of factors are interacting here in interesting ways, right? Like on the one hand, the fact that this is
there we go. Krebsonsecurity.com. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this website, but I love Krebs. They are more security focused type of blog or whatnot. So, but maybe we'll get some more technical details here about what happened. So, DarkSide, which they're saying, of course, is responsible for the Colonial Pipeline situation. So they shut down over 5,000 miles of pipe. They stranded countless barrels of gas, diesel, and jet fuel on the Gulf Coast. So basically, if you look at it, that is the Colonial Pipeline. And you can see just how long it is. So it goes all the way from Texas on up to the East Coast. So just 1 second. Y'all give me just 1 second. Hold on. Okay, my apologies. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Okay. New York City-based cyber intelligence firm Flashpoint said its analysts assessed with a moderate strong degree of confidence that the attack was not intended to damage national infrastructure and was simply associated with a target which had finances to support a large payment. It would be consistent with DarkSide's earlier activities, which included several big game hunting attacks, where hackers target an organization that likely possesses the financial means to pay the ransom demanded by the attackers. In response to public attention to the Colonial Pipeline attack, the DarkSide group sought to play down fears about widespread infrastructure attacks going forward. You know, you can't come out here as a group or a whatever and do this kind of crap and expect to have any kind of positive reputation out there when it comes to, so it's like, it's not going to matter like what they're saying when it comes to widespread infrastructure attacks. Like we don't trust you, right? This is what they say. We are apolitical. We do not participate in geopolitics, do not need to tie us with a defined government, and look for our motives, reads an update to the DarkSide Leaks blog. We're going to have to go look at that. Our goal is to make money and not creating problems for society. You're not going to be able to straddle that fence, DarkSide. You're just not. You're either going to be a black hat or a white hat. There's no gray in between. First surfacing on Russian language hacking forums in August 2020, DarkSide is a ransomware as a service. Oh my God, really? So they're doing ransomware as a service platform. So basically what they're doing is they're creating the tool set that you need. Almost like, we come into a chat room, and I've seen these before, where they'll create the tool that you need and people will literally like go into these chats. They'll pay a certain amount of money so that they can utilize the tool, and they're not going to be tracked because they're logging into the tool, which is hosted by DarkSide, thus their IP would be hidden, and they're probably coming over Tor Onion or some VPN in anyway. But they're literally, wow. So their services that they're offering is a hacking platform. Here's the built-in tools that you would need to push out a ransomware attack. You figure out who your target is, we got the tools to do it. That's crazy. Wow. Wow. Everybody's going to software as a service type platforms. You've got the Office 365 cloud. You've got Amazon's AWS. You've got all these companies that are wanting to do software as a service type platforms. Like the days of sending out DVD discs are over. Everything's going to be digitally provided via the cloud. I guarantee you. It'll be a time where you won't even buy discs to play games anymore. It's all just going to be downloaded. Hard drives are getting cheaper. Wow. So DarkSide says it targets only big companies and forbids affiliates from dropping ransomware on organizations in several industries, including healthcare, funeral services, education, public sector, and nonprofits. Like other ransomware platforms, DarkSide adheres to the current bad guy best practice of double extortion, which involves demanding separate sums for both a digital key needed to unlock any files and servers and a separate ransom in exchange for a promise to destroy any data stolen from the victim. I guarantee you this DarkSide, whatever the website is, whatever DNS namespace that they own, I guarantee it's not hosted in the United States. No way. This isn't going to be something hosted on a GoDaddy. At its launch, DarkSide sought to woo affiliates from competing ransomware programs by advertising a victim data leak site that gets stable visits and media coverage, as well as the ability to publish victim data by stages. Under the Why Choose Us section, oh my gosh, this is a screenshot from their website. So, if you want to deploy a ransomware attack, you go find these software as a service platforms. And this is, look, we only attack companies that can pay the requested amount. We do not want to kill your business. Before any attack, we carefully analyze your accountancy and determine how much you can pay based on your net income. You can ask all your questions in the chat before paying, and our support will answer them. How dare y'all? Oh my gosh. We provide the following guarantees for our targets. We guarantee decryption of one test file. We guarantee to provide decryptors after payment, as well as support in case of problems. So remember I was telling you those stories about how some, people were getting attacked with ransomware, and those attacks would encrypt their files. But then when they'd get the password, they tried to decrypt their files and they couldn't. So that's become a bit of an issue. So now they're offering support. We guarantee deletion of all uploaded data from Tor CDNs after payment. If you refuse to pay, we will publish all your data and store it on our Tor CDNs for at least 6 months. What is a CDN? Anybody tell me what a CDN is? Content Delivery Network. So basically, it's a highway. Consider it like an interstate for hackers. We will send notification of your leak to the media and your partners and customers. We will never, with bold and uppercase, provide you decryptors. We take our reputation very seriously. So if paid, all guarantees will be fulfilled. If you don't want to pay, you will add to the list of published companies on our blog and become an example of others. Wow, man. Wow. DarkSide also started recruiting new affiliates last month, mainly seeking network penetration testers who can help turn a single compromised computer into a full-on data breach and ransomware incident. Geez, so they basically want to use a network of computers to leverage their attacks, is basically what that is. The more computers, the better, right? Look at this, network penetration testing. We have grown significantly in terms of the client base and in comparison to other projects, judging by the analysis of publicly available information. So we are ready to grow our team and a number of our affiliates in two fields. One, network penetration testing. We are looking for one person or a team. We'll adapt you to the work environment and provide work. High profit cuts, ability to target networks that you can't handle on your own, new experience, and stable income. That would be very interesting for techies. You know, if you're a techie, that probably may interest some techies. High profit, what does it say? High profit cuts, ability to target networks that you can't handle on your own, you know, AKA meaning networking with other people, learning other people's skill set, how you can leverage them, that sort of a thing. I mean, these people build these relationships, you know, and sometimes you'll like hear of hackers from their name, and you'll know, oh yeah, they did that hack, they did that hack, they did that hack, you know. Providing networks. You'll work with us and with our affiliates. Before providing networks, we'll give you the affiliate payout statistics upon agreement. When you use our product and the ransom is paid, we guarantee fair distribution of the funds. What this means is basically if you put your network at risk, so if you allow people to come in through your, you know, into your network and let them use it to do what they want to do, knowing that you're putting yourself at risk for someone knocking on the door, right? Because providing the network is a big deal, because that's going to be the very first thing that the FBI is going to come knock on the door, right? We only accept networks where you intend to run our payload. Wow. Wow. Portions of a DarkSide recruitment message translated from Russian. Now, DarkSide has shown itself to be fairly ruthless with victim companies that have deep pockets, but they can be reasoned with. Cybersecurity intelligence firm Intel 471 observed a negotiation between the DarkSide crew and a $15 billion U.S. victim company that was hit with a $30 million ransom demand in January of this year, 2021. And in this incident, the victim's efforts at negotiating a lower payment ultimately reduced the ransom demand by almost 2/3. You need 30 million now or 60 million. I mean, they're willing to take Bitcoin or XMR. And then once you provide the payment, they will provide the decryptor. Oh my God. Which means you still have to be connected to their network even to decrypt your shit. It was scary, man. You can never trust those machines again. You would absolutely totally have to blow them out and rebuild them. Like, no question. You'd have to take those machines and literally unplug them from the network. Literally. It is a scary, scary cyber attack. The first exchange between DarkSide and the victim involved the usual back and forth establishing of trust, wherein the victim asked for assurances that stolen data will be deleted after payment. How do I know you can decrypt our data? We can decrypt one sample file for you. Jeez. And see, you notice how all this is done over the computer. Like, it's the ideal crime in some people's eyes because you're not having to put a face to anything. You're not having to put a fingerprint. There's no DNA. It's all done remote. And it's extremely interesting just how these things seem to be proceeding. It's getting, I didn't even know that they were doing ransomware platforms as a service until today. Unbelievable. Now, they'll even put a time ticker on you. If in the next 8 hours, your price tag will go to 60 million, the crooks replied. So these are your options. You can already tell it's not English. It's not American. First, take our generous offer and pay to us 28,750 million US, or invest some monies in quantum computing to expedite a decryption process. God, that's what I was just saying. Like, even after they pay the ransom, they still have to let themselves be connected to the network to decrypt the files. So they're saying, like, invest some monies in quantum computing to expedite a decryption process, meaning that you're at the mercy of how many computers on their networks that can decrypt these files for you. You're at their mercy. And the more computers you throw in it, meaning the more networks you have, right? It's like mining. It's like mining cryptocurrency. Everybody, gives a little piece of their computer to mine the Bitcoin. It's similar, just like that. It's cold-blooded, man, to tell them, hey, if you want your files back, then yeah, invest in some quantum computing for us to get the decryption process done quicker. Like, damn. They're cold with it. They are so cold with it. Now, this is Krebs on security, so they go into incredible amount of detail about the technical aspect of it. Flashpoint assesses that at least some of the criminals behind DarkSide hail from another ransomware outfit called Revel. Revel is widely considered to be the newer name for GN. Oh, cash and grab and cash. GN Crab, a ransomware as a service offering that closed up shop in 2019 after bragging that it had extorted more than $2 billion. Experts say ransomware attacks will continue to grow in sophistication. It used to be that they would just try to pass these ransomware, files, or these dirty files, these these file URL, or even just links in email. It started with images, and then message hygiene cleaners got smart about scanning emails in for, images. And then it went to links, because everybody sends links in email. And then that's why you might notice once or twice a year, your company will test you, and you'll get an email and it'll have a link in it. And if you hit the link, you get in a little bit of trouble with your security team. That's why, because that was the next wave of how ransomware attacks developed. And then now we find out they're leveraging certain email systems and different other software. So they are getting more sophisticated, and they are moving faster than the government can ever keep up with, because you just don't have the same level of expertise within the government when, for this type of stuff. You almost have to be a hacker. Or, someone that's really good with, technology or whatnot, who's a white hat. There's some really good security analysts out there. But this is going to be interesting. How this is going to play out. I almost want to look at this a little bit more. Hold on just one second. Oh, yeah, look at this. I just wanted to know, like, what were some of the things that they do when they're getting ready to do a ransomware? Because I know they're doing reconnaissance, but okay. So it looks like, okay, there was an investigation into some ransomware attacks attributed to DarkSide. These highly targeted campaigns were conducted in several phases over weeks or months, targeting theft and encryption of sensitive data, including people's backups. So they're even targeting the backup systems, where all the backups of all the servers sit. Okay. They announced their RAS, ransomware as a service, in August of 2020 via a press release. They provide a web chat support to victims. They build intricate data leak storage systems that have redundancy, and they perform financial analysis of the victims prior to attacking. They try to evoke the image of a good guy or gal that is turned from the light. While we can't conclude that the group is compromised of former IT security professionals, their attacks reveal a deep knowledge of their victims' infrastructure, security technologies, and weaknesses. Oh, you best believe it's comprised of a group of former IT security professionals. These are no newbies that are doing this. These would be people, that's probably been in technology for 10 plus years at least. They have publicly stated that they prefer, well, we already read that, but hold on. Our reverse engineering revealed that DarkSide's malware checks device language settings to ensure they don't attack Russia-based organizations. Wow. So if there's any kind of Russian language, or if the .ru or Russian language is set on the machine, they will not allow their malware to attack it. That's wild, man. That tells you right there where this is coming from. That tells you a lot. They have also, the group has both Windows and Linux tool sets. Much like NetWalker and Rebel, DarkSide is an affiliate program that offers anyone who helps spread their malware 10 to 25% of the payout. Again, if you're going to offer up your computer or your computers as part of the network that they were recruiting for, then that's what they're talking about. You can get anywhere from 10 to a quarter of the payout. So a quarter of, $30 million is not bad, especially if you can kind of move around provided network and then get up and leave as soon as the shit's done. But again, it's kind of bad for them too, because they have to allow the network to be accessed for the decryption process to work. And the length of time that it takes for that decryption could be hours to days for the decryption to literally go through every file and decrypt. So, and it's all based on how many computers they have to do the processing. So that means that you're essentially providing this network for hours up to a few days, and you're going to be nervous as a mug knowing that someone could knock on the door in that period of time, because that's when you're going to be most vulnerable to having your IP address tracked. So they are doing careful reconnaissance and took steps to ensure that their attack tools and techniques would evade detection on monitored devices and endpoints. So they're doing command and control over Tor. They're avoiding the nodes where EDR is running. They're waiting periods and saving the noisier actions for later stages, meaning increased network activity. So they're probably doing that like later on during the process or at night. Customized code and connection hosts for each victim. Wow. So I guess it used to be like this plain Jane normal entrance, and that people would connect to see, what I got to do to get my stuff back. I guess now they're customizing it for you. So if you are a Colonial Pipeline and you hit the host, it's customized for you. They took care into making sure you have the best ransomware experience. Jeez, obfuscation techniques like encoding in DLLs, dynamic library loading, anti-forensic techniques like deleting its log files. So it'll just delete its log files, and there's no telling what other log files it's deleting. During the later stages of their attack, they're harvesting the creds stored in files. In order, they're harvesting people's credentials, usernames, and passwords. They're storing it in files, in memories, and on the domain controllers. They're utilizing file shares to distribute the attack tools and store file archives. They're relaxing permissions on the file shares for the easy harvesting. Okay. Then they're deleting people's backups, including their shadow copies, and then they're deploying the customized ransomware. This is extremely complex. They will gain their initial entry through weak links, remotely exploitable accounts and systems. They say that they observed DarkSide using compromised contractor accounts to access virtual desktop infrastructure, VDIs, that had been put in place to facilitate remote access during the pandemic. So basically, if you guys have ever heard of like, what is it? Not Cisco. I'm having a brain fart. It's like a remote system that your people. Hold on a second, hold on. The most famous VDI provider, VMware, Citrix. So, and I wanted to say Citrix because you guys probably may be familiar with Citrix, how you can spin out VDIs and people will connect to them using, hell, they could use a Xbox console if they wanted. As long as they can get into that VDI, then they have a whole computer at their discretion. But apparently they observed them exploiting them. They were also exploiting servers and then quickly deploying additional RDPs that would preserve access should the vulnerable server be patched. Wow. So they're doing RDP over HTTPS over Tor, meaning remote desktop protocol over HTTPS, secure HTTP over the Tor network. And again, Tor networks are comprised of multiple machines around the world that participate in providing resources for that network. They established command and control primarily with an RDP client. So like remote, they'll start up some RDP client. They're doing it over 443, routed through Tor. After installing a Tor browser, they modified its configuration to run as persistent, redirecting traffic sent to local ports through Tor over HTTPS. Okay. So, and the reason they did that is because it's going to look just like web traffic and it's not going to look suspicious. That's why they're doing that. They are definitely using Tor to do this. The attackers use Cobalt Strike as a secondary command and control mechanism. We observed dozens of customized stagers that downloaded customized beacons that connected to specific servers. These stagers, named file.exe, were deployed remotely on specific targeted devices using, of course, WinRM. Wow. So they're throwing these EXEs, they're throwing these XEs and these stagers into network shares on file systems and opening them up. They actually avoided installing backdoors on systems that were monitored by EDR solutions. So they're trying to avoid the systems that are scanning for those sorts of things. We observed the threat actors log into the virtual desktop environment with many accounts, sometimes at the same time. That's concurrently. Each time the threat actor logs in, .ink files were created, and that's normal because when you create a new, or when you log in for the first time, it's going to create some new files. The .ink file activity helped determine which accounts and VDI environments had been compromised. So they used that as a way to track back the activity. Recon and credential harvesting. So they're scanning networks, they're running commands, they're dumping the processes as well. Wow. Wow. Advanced IP scanner.exe PS exec. Wow. All right. So from the initial set of compromised host and ticket requests and NTLM connections to gain access to additional systems and accounts after a waiting period, the actor used an Active Directory reconnaissance tool called adrecon.ps1. That is a PowerShell script to gather additional information about users, groups, and privilege, storing results in a file called dc.txt. They're even using file names that would be normal. They're really trying not to get any, I don't really want to make a big stink about even file names. Each of their attack tools was deleted after use. The attacker temporarily stored the recon results and credential information on a very active Windows server. Interesting file names written and deleted on the server included typed history, app data. Damn, app data. Everything's in app data. User-wise, i.e. passwords, AD Intel, and Process Explorer.zip. If they were able to do a Process Explorer, I just see that name and I already know they're dumping all the processes running on the box. So basically it tells them what all's installed. Do they have antivirus installed? Do they have, some sort of software installed? Maybe it'll have an open door for me, or, there's all kind of reasons to look for that. But notice that if they get the app data folder, they're getting every single bit of information underneath the app data folder, which is also Vault for credentials. This is probably getting a little bit too technical because y'all know me. This shit is very interesting. So I'll try not to be so technical. But this is interesting because what they're doing is, so the first thing they do is they inject themselves. So they copy the malware into the temp directory, and then they inject the code into CMD. So command prompt. So basically, command prompt, command.exe gets loaded all the time, even just normal use. And so they're loading this code into that process. So if the malware finds indications that it is being debugged, so basically the malware is like, if anybody scans me, I'm going to tell you. I'll let you know if they start scanning. That's basically what it's saying. It'll stop what it's doing so it doesn't tip people off any further. To avoid detection by antivirus and EDR solutions, the ransomware dynamically loads its libraries without registering them, the DLL files. Wow. So then they delete the shadow copies. They're using a PowerShell command. The malware attempts to delete the shadow copies on the device. Then they encrypt the files. After the deletion of the shadow copies, the malware closes specific processes to avoid locked. Damn, they're trying to avoid files locked, which would delay encryption. Then it starts its encryption routine. And it starts a list of processes. SQL, Oracle. All these look at that. Firefox, Excel, InfoPath, MS Access, MS Pub, OneNote, Outlook, PowerPoint, WinWord, WordPad, Notepad. Those are all normal file executable names. Now, during encryption, the malware appends an 8-character string to the end of the encrypted file name. So this here, the CF19B1E7 piece. And it also avoids encrypting files with these extensions. So .bin, .cabs, so it does not encrypt these. It does not encrypt MSIs. And, there's a various number of reasons for that. It creates ransom instructions, a readme.txt, and says contact the ransomware creator to decrypt your files. Wow. Look at that shit. Look, your personal leak page. Remember how we were just talking about how they're customizing the host? Your personal leak page. Tor Onion. Wow. The reason why these blogs are so awesome to read, especially like if you're a techie or whatever, is it will help you prepare yourself for things like this if it happens in some place that you may be working. I think every corporation right now needs to make an active decision to handle ransomware and its threats to their corporation. I really do. This is probably the main cyber attack that's being leveraged these days. If you have blind spots on core data stores in Active Directory, DNS, remote access systems, or in web connections, you'll struggle to determine which systems were compromised and whether sensitive data was even stolen. If you detect a breach, let Active Directory triangulate the blast radius. Active Directory events can help you quickly. So basically get in there, save that security log out. Once one compromised account or system has been identified, query AD for signs of lateral movement by that account or accounts used on that system. Wow. I wonder if there's like any sort of video that may explain in a more broke down way before I get up off of here. Let's see. Actually, I don't need no long video though. Hold on.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Steve Reagan with CSO Online. And yesterday I infected this computer with ransomware. Today, I'm going to try and fix it, and I'm going to show you how.
Okay, so he's
the
going
first thing
to
I'm going to do
mode.
here is reboot Windows 10 into safe mode. But it's not as simple as rebooting your computer and pressing F8. There's actually things you have to do. So you can see my screen, and what I'm going to do is come down here to the start button, and I'm going to press
say
power.
something real quick.
But before I hit restart,
when I say that corporations need to take the time to ramp up for ransomware attacks, do things like this. Have somebody, on your security team get a sandbox, install ransomware, learn what to do. You know what I mean? Like, you can literally do this into like a sandboxed environment that has no access to anything and essentially test your skill set if this happens.
I'm going to hold the shift key. Now, there are times while those systems rebooting that you're not going to be able to see my screen from the live feed. So we've got a camera over my shoulder, as you can probably tell, and we're going to record this. So after I reboot the computer into safe mode, once I set the options, you're no longer going to see the live feed. So I'm going to describe to you what I'm doing, what I'm seeing. That way, you'll still have a basis of what's going on. So I'm going to hold down the shift button, and I'm going to click restart. Now.
So yeah, this is wild, man. And to think that they walked away with 4.4 million. So the government has 2 of it, 2 point something, right? So what's this going to mean for the rest of the funds? Did those make it to a Bitcoin wallet? That's what I want to know. This stuff is very interesting. So, yeah, I'm probably going to do a screwed and chopped here later on today. So y'all be looking for my live later today. But yeah, just wanted to kind of talk about this. It is good that Colonial Pipeline was able to recover some of that ransomware, but that money, the Bitcoin, that was taken. But there's so much more to come. There's like so much more to come on this story. And wow, ransomware as a service. That's crazy. They're making it easier and easier and easier to do that stuff. Totally black hat. Yeah, like there's no white hat about that at all. Like I was saying, Dalai Lama, like the way you protect yourself is like this man on the screen. This is probably going to be the number one way, is have somebody who's familiar. Have them literally get familiar with ransomware, install it on a machine. They need to know that basically you don't ever want to walk up to this IT guy or this security guy one day when one of your machines gets attacked and he says to you, well, what's ransomware? No, he needs to know what it is. He needs to know how to, handle it. All it takes is somebody to sit in front of the computer, build a sandboxed environment, and leave this. The security professionals should be able to, get a little bit more adept with this, but they're going to have to devote some resources to it. But anyway, guys, have a really good rest of your day. I will see y'all on the next live. We'll do a screwed and chopped here pretty soon, probably later. So watch the notifications. Bye, guys.